Welcome to the Sandwich Generation Pod. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Eliesa. And today
is our season finale.
Today we're welcoming the most magical human in my life, Monica Walch.
If you've ever felt like you might be stuck in your 40s or you had kids a little bit later in life, you are absolutely going to love this guest. She's inspiring. She's grounded. She makes you just feel better about life in general.
Monica is a woman of many talents, but today we're here talking about mothering, raising kids in our 40s, and aging well. I cannot wait for you to meet Monica. Let's get into it.
Are you a robe person?
I think I am now.
Okay, you guys, this is like our first ad, and we are sitting here in the most plush robes because of our friend Emily from Kisa.
Okay, so I want to talk about my robe experience because I feel amazing, and I'm not just saying that. Emily specifically picked out this rainbow colored robe for me, and I feel like it's my alter ego now. I do feel like I'm in like Palm Springs or something with it.
They come in all these colors. I'm wearing black and white, which feels super chic, and you're wearing the rainbow. You all should have one of these because when you get out of the shower or when you go to the spa, you deserve to feel your very best.
And let's be honest, as sandwich people, we are not going to the spa often. But my version of the spa is to wear one of those Amazon double chin masks. Have you seen those? But I'll get out of my shower. I'll wear my double chin mask. I will put on this fantastic robe and feel like $1,000,000. I am a woman who has had 2 children and has curves, and this robe actually fits. It fits around my whole body. There's no gapping. Everything's tucked in. It actually feels like there's a blanket around you. It's also made out of 100% Turkish cotton.
This is going way longer than 30 seconds.
Do you love it?
The
Do you like
diva hood has turned Eliesa into the best version of herself.
Okay. So if you are a listener of ours, you can go to Kisa, Kisa, official.com and use code SandwichPod10 for 10% off.
Now, should we actually get into our episode?
Let's get into it.
Okay, so I know that you guys know each other really well, but I don't know you as well. And I am so excited to talk to you today because Eliesa speaks so highly of you. And
Thanks.
I just was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about who you are and our listeners and, who are you?
Sure. Okay. So I am a mom of 2. I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I'm turning 46 next week. So I had them later in life, and I've been with my partner Bentley for 10 years this summer. Let's see. So I started Dinner on the Farm when I was 28, and that was business that I created to connect people to their food and the farmers who grew it. And I would work with a different farm and chef each time, and the chef would go out and cook everything from the farm. People would get a tour, and we had live music, and we usually partnered with a local brewery to have different beverages and things too. And I did that for 15 years, mostly Western Wisconsin and Minnesota. And then in 2014, I partnered with Brooklyn Brewery, and we did Dinner on the Farm in 10 different cities in the US and 2 in Europe. So I got to travel a lot and meet tons of cool people with small businesses that were doing cool things in each city. And that was amazing and so much fun. And then Bentley and I met in my mid-30s, and we had Harvest a couple years into our relationship. And then
for those of us who can't do math, when did you have your first child?
I was 37.
Okay.
And then I was just a couple weeks away from turning 40 when I had Goldie. So yeah. And it was interesting because most of my friends and my sisters had older kids, when I was having kids. So I wasn't really in that space with them where we were pregnant together and figuring everything out together. It was more like I was meeting other moms that were pregnant, but they were a lot younger than me. I guess it was really different than I expected when I was younger. I kind of imagined that me and my sisters would all have kids at the same time, and me and my friends. But one of the nice things about that now is a lot of my friends have teenage kids and they can babysit our kids and we can go out and do stuff together. And then I've also been able to meet a lot more people with kids the same age as mine.
I love hearing that because we have so much in common. I had my kids when I was 40 and 42. So I very much can relate to like everything you just said, all the way back from like, this is what I did in my 20s and 30s. And then I started a new chapter in my 40s, and all of my kids, like my best friend's daughter's going to college and my daughter's in preschool. It's really wild.
Isn't there like a saying that in your 40s, you either know people who have kids graduating from high school or newborns? It's like that 40 mark for some reason. It does hold true.
There's so many different emotional and mental differences about, I think, having kids into your late 30s and 40s than having them, you know, earlier. Some are good, and so, you know, it's just being more laid back or like
I'm
tired.
so glad. I'm so glad that I had kids later in life because, first of all, I can't imagine doing my day job with young kids. Like my career wouldn't have been what it was. I think all of us actually, between dinner on the farm, you building thumbs, me building my photography business, like there's no way I could have traveled as much or done as much with children. But also to be the parent that I want to be, it's like this is a time in life for it now. And I feel like I can totally be the parent I want to be to my kids because I did everything on the front end. Now there are trade-offs, right? Because like the joint pain is real. I'm over here a year postpartum and still like inflamed as hell. We talk about this all the time. But like, you know, there's trade-offs. Why we're here today too is like because we had kids later, things are happening to our parents as they're aging, and it's a very specific place in life. But I also would not do it any differently. I would not. I feel so lucky for the journey and the experiences, and I can't imagine it any other way.
There's so many things I want to talk about, but I'm curious about like what happened with Dinner on the Farm. Is there a reason that it stopped, or was it like that you were getting into the momming chapter?
I mean, just like what you were just talking about, like not being able to do your job when you're building something the same way you do when you have kids. I think when I was building it and running my business, I imagined that I would do it with kids. So in my head, I was like, I'll have a carrier and the baby will just be running around with me and doing all this stuff. I'll be traveling, I'll be doing all this. And then it's like when you're in the reality of parenting, you're like, I did a dinner on the farm when Harvest was a baby and I had her in the carrier. And I was actually really excited about it because I had been imagining it for a long time. But the attention that you have to give them, and then the attention that you have to give your other baby, your business, there's not enough space for that, I feel like. And so then you feel guilty because you're not doing this the best, you're not doing that the best. So you're just torn. And I did a few dinners when Harvest was a baby, and then I had Goldie in 2020. So I was trying to do food events during COVID with like making individual picnics for everybody. And then Bentley was trying to help me set up, and he had the baby and I had the 2-year-old. And it was just so chaotic. And I didn't feel like I was giving my best to anyone, like the people that were coming to the event and paying to support this, the people that were growing the food, my kids, my family. I wasn't able to spread myself that far, I guess. So I feel like it was just coming to that realization, like trying to do it and trying to do it really well and realizing that it just wasn't happening. The other part of closing down Dinner on the Farm that I feel like I've come to realize over the last few years, because I just closed it down 2 years ago. So what I've come to realize now is that all of the things I'm doing now, like I have a farm stand in my driveway, we have people over for music in the backyard, we're, growing food, helping people learn about foraging, all of these different things. It's like the same mission and the same idea and bringing community together around food, but it's just on a different scale. So doing it here and having my kids be a part of it and having them around. And
Mhm.
it's just, instead of like traveling to Nashville to do a dinner and missing this and missing that, I'm doing the same thing, or bringing the same idea about, but just doing it on a smaller scale.
My mind is blown. Okay.
There are so many things about you, Monica, that I admire. I want the listeners to know that Monica Walch is like my fairy godmother. She has become one of my best friends. Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Then
She
I'm
is.
gonna cry.
This is what happens actually. This is the Monica effect on me. But she is the person who shows up for me in like a very maternal way. You are like the mother of all mothers to anyone who comes into your orbit. And I mean that in the best way. And I mean, I've spent time with your actual mother too. And I'm like, oh, this is where she gets it from. It's just like this softness that like sometimes in my life, I have not even known that I needed. And then Monica shows up. I'll never forget this day, actually. I was newly pregnant with Alma, and I was just, in the days where like I felt so sick during that pregnancy. Like it was a really tough situation. And I was trying to keep up with Florence. And I was in that space where like you can't imagine loving another child yet when you're about to have your second, right? And like everything is so new. Like this idea is so new. And Monica showed up with like a basket of ginger chews and chapstick or lotion or something. And it was just some goodies. And I just remember you coming in, and I think Florence was around too, but I just like sobbed. You just have a way of showing up exactly when people need it. But I've been so fortunate to like, experience that love and support from you at so many times in my life. But in recent years, really, is when we became close because the universe just has brought us together in ways we can't imagine. But ironically, we live down the street from each other, and we didn't know that when we bought our houses, and we didn't know each other well. But it is one of the greatest gifts to live so close to your family and be able to see how you two parent and experience this sense of community that you're speaking so much about. But one of the things, getting back to my point, that I admire the most about you is watching you go through and allow yourself to go through different phases of becoming who you are and growing into new spaces for yourself. Like that, I think is really admirable and something that we as women fight a lot, right? Especially when it comes to careers. We build these things that are great businesses or great ideas. And all of us here are people who make ideas come to life, right? Like if we have the idea, we're going to do it. And we see a path how to do it. We're willing to put in the time and the effort. We're creative. We're doers also. I think when we build things, it's also really hard to admit or think about as we grow or the longer that things exist. Like, does this still make sense? Is this still what I want to do? And like, I know that closing dinner on the farm was a big decision, right? Like you tried to like keep that going and make that work. I also always thought it was really courageous and brave and cool to be like, this is not working. I always envisioned this working in a certain way, but it's actually not. And I'm going to recognize that and then shift my life to actually have the life that feels balanced. And
This is why my mind was blown. This is exactly why.
yeah, but I think that takes so much growth and wisdom, and I think it's a cool thing that people don't do enough of because we hold so tightly to our identities,
Yes.
careers, and like who we are. Like, who would you be if you weren't the thumbs cookies lady, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
who would I be if I wasn't the photographer? And I think also when we have children later in life, it's not necessarily a midlife crisis, but it's like
I
so
think it
much.
is.
Well, so much of our identities have been determined by our careers because
Yes.
we've been doing our careers for our whole lives until we had kids in our 40s. So I've just always admired that about you, I guess is my point. And I think that even if it hasn't been easy, you have found your way in ways that I think so many people would find so much freedom in if they allowed themselves to do it. And I am preaching to the choir
Preach,
here.
girl.
I am like
Preach.
looking in the mirror and saying this at the
Yes.
same time because we
Yes.
change and we do
Yes.
become different versions of ourselves.
How did you do it? I actually do want to hear from you, but I can't echo that enough. I think we personally, you and me, talk
Mm-hmm.
about this a lot when we're
Yeah.
not on the mics. And I love that
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about it today because I think there are a lot of women that are actually having the same existential crisis, but they might
Yeah.
not be talking about it. So I have so many questions, but how did you find the courage to do all the things Eliesa just said? And what are you doing now? And how does that all work?
Well, I mean, first of all, thanks for saying all that stuff. It's so flattering. I'm so honored to be talking about this. I think we don't talk about it enough. And hearing someone else's story helps just get the ball rolling and kind of plant the seed of what is possible. I think the biggest thing becoming a mom helped me realize was what matters and what things can be set down. And when I was thinking about shifting out of dinner on the farm, which I think one of the reasons it's so hard to do and it feels like such an identity loss is because we love what we're doing. I know both of you love what you do so much, and I loved what I was doing. I talked to people that had been coming to dinner events for years, and they were like, "You can't stop doing it. We love it. We got to figure out a way to keep it going." And it wasn't the work that wasn't exciting anymore. It was more the lifestyle that, surrounded it. But I read the book by Rick Rubin, A Creative Act, and there were so many gems in there. But one of the things he said was people aren't drawn to the thing that you're doing, they're drawn to your excitement for it. And so the more I thought about that and the more I thought about like what I was actually excited about in the moment, it was being a mother and pouring like my whole self into that job. And I don't think our generation really grew up seeing a mother or a stay-at-home mom or, that whole role as producing anything or being successful or, all of those things that we think about when we start a business or we're really successful in our careers. We didn't have that lens to view it through. But I don't know, the more I was in it and the more I was actually letting myself like fully be immersed in mothering, it was just starting to feel like such an important thing, like the most important thing that I could do. So I guess from there, it was just figuring out how to still do the work that I loved and bring people together and keep my whole ethos of building community and do that with my kids and do it at home and do it in a way that worked for our lifestyle. And the huge other part of that I haven't even talked about yet is having a partner who created a safe container around that allowed for me to stay home with them and that allowed for me to build something really slowly and figure it out as I went and figure out how everything looked now. And he's just this super steady provider. And I wouldn't be able to do any of this without him. So that's another huge part of it.
We're all really lucky to have very supportive partners. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but that's a huge piece to all our lives in doing all the things that we do.
Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge like financially, everyone's in such a different place. And some people just don't have the option or might not feel like they have the option to take a moment like that in life and to maybe stop their career. Maybe they're the breadwinner at home, or like we know like two incomes is just like the way of life these days. But I think we're talking about the identity piece today. And I just can't tell you how much I personally feel like this is really where I'm at in my life is constantly, since having children, the constant question of identity is at the forefront for me. And, it's just so much a less is more when I hear you talk. I know people talk a lot about like how much we put busyness on a pedestal and we reward those who are in the chaos somehow because they're doing so much and they must be valuable because they're so busy. And we forget about, and again, I think the phone plays a part in this too somehow, but it's like choosing simplicity and quiet and less chaos and focus is just something I think we don't hear enough about. I'm so inspired listening to that and listening to your choices. I do feel like I need to ask more about like, letting go of a huge part of your identity, even though you were embracing something else. I wonder about, was there like a grieving process of letting go And how does that feel?
I think I'm still grieving it at times. We went out for breakfast the other day at a restaurant that it's not that new, but I hadn't been there yet. And I just used to be so immersed in the food world and know what everyone was doing and know all the people and know all the chefs. And I just felt like I was so connected, and I feel very disconnected from that world now. And I think just being out in the world and seeing people and connecting and saying, "Oh, you have to meet this person, they're doing this," and being inspired. I'm doing more of that now than I was when the kids were really little. They're 6 and 8 now, but I think that's a huge part that I still miss all the time. There's always little pockets of guilt that pop up, not bringing in an income when you spent your whole life like hustling and not having control over that after having to have control to build a successful business. So yeah, I feel like I'm not just floating around being like, this is perfect, la-di-da, everything's great. There's always these little pings and things that I miss and things that I wish I was able to do. And then there's also the other side of it where
Yeah.
we're like walking out in the garden in the morning, picking strawberries, having our coffee. Like there's no rush. There's no meeting I have to jump on. There's this like, you were talking about kind of the simplicity piece of it. And it sounds weird, but the more we simplify, it's like the richer it gets. So, kind of back to the financial piece you were talking about, like we really had to change our whole lifestyle going from two incomes to one, and let go of a lot of things that we thought we needed that we didn't. And it's not always easy, and it's not, smooth sailing all the time, but there's just so much that we can do, especially with the kids, that's just free. And, going outside is the biggest thing. Like we go for hikes every weekend, and we're going to the lake and going to the beach and stuff like that, which is all free. Cooking a ton at home, which the trade-off is, we're saving money, but it takes way more time. So it's really like reframing everything, I feel like, and figuring out how to keep simplifying, but not in a way that you feel like you're missing anything or like losing the richness of life.
I've personally seen you do this. I've seen you actively choose to simplify, but also this is the magic about you guys. It's so intentional, seemingly, that it's also so natural. How you built your garden, how you've built your home, how you involve community, how you walk your girls to school. Like it is just such a good rhythm and balance. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't come with hardship. I've also seen some tricky points for you guys, but you've chosen to work through that and you've chosen to figure it out. And the choices that I feel like you guys have made are lifestyle based and have really been a practice, but then have become normal. But it doesn't happen overnight. This has been like years in the making. And I think that sometimes we live in a culture where it's like we want instant gratification. We want to switch something and, we want it to happen now. And I love that you guys have always been curious and you've like explored things and you've tried things and you've changed things and it's been easier. It's been harder. But there's always like a commitment to a vision moving forward. And every year I see that come into fruition a little more. And then before you know it, you look around and it's like, there's this beautiful garden. There's these community concerts happening. There is just time and space. Also, let me tell you, the most delicious food comes out of Monica Walch's kitchen. My God, you can cook. It is a hug at all times. And now you're sharing that with the community too, with your farm stands. So Monica and Bentley have done such a good job at making these choices over time. And at every point, it feels intentional to what their values are and what they want their life to be. And that, I don't know, I just think that that's inspiring because it's like you're always working towards the life you want, is what it seems.
I need like you to paint me a picture. Like, what is your day like?
He goes to work super early. He's a distiller at Tattersall, so he created his schedule around a 4-day week. So he goes really early in the morning and then he works 10-hour days. So he has Fridays off to spend with the girls. And that's something he started doing a long time ago. And he loves his Fridays. He takes them fishing, or if it's winter, he takes them skating, or, does stuff outside with them. Right now, they've been working on collecting sap because they're making maple syrup from our backyard trees. So they're like all super into that. But during the week, we get up and get ready for school. We have breakfast.
What do you have for breakfast?
What do we have for breakfast? Well, we have chicken. So we usually have eggs and sourdough, yogurt and granola, the old favorites, pancakes with
Like
the
every
maple
day?
syrup,
That's amazing. We have like
Yeah.
Czech cereal. Okay, yep. Keep going. Okay.
Yeah, our kids are huge breakfast eaters. So we usually have a pretty big breakfast. And then the elementary school is right behind our house. It's like a 5-minute walk. So we walk to school. I usually am baking or making some sort of apothecary tinctures or fire cider or something like that during the day. Just doing like the basic stuff I have to do around the house.
Making
Yeah,
tinctures.
every day is kind of different. Right now, I'm like planting seedlings for the garden. We have a really, really big garden. So we have a ton of perennial stuff. We have a lot of medicinal herbs and then fruit trees. And then we do some annual stuff every year. So right now, I'm planting like tomato seeds, pepper seeds. My onions and parsley are already really tall. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, taking care of the chickens. It's just every day is kind of different.
And then what does it look like when the girls come home asking for a friend? Because I'm like,
yeah.
What do you do? Arts and crafts?
So the biggest thing that I have found that works really well for our family is having them outside for at least half an hour after school. So we also have this really nice playground right behind our house that just got revamped. So we've been going to the park every day after school. Something that I have found is if I try to bring them back together after school in the house, it's like the older one wants to read a book quietly and the younger one wants to play, and they're just like at each other. So if we're outside, there's usually other kids there, but even if there isn't, there's just a different energy about it. Like them coming back together, but being outside playing is some kind of magic. So we usually play outside. They love snow. So even when it's winter, they are happy to be out there. My youngest just started kindergarten this year. So now that they're both in school, we've been doing this tea time thing after school where they go through their folders and they show all of their work and talk about their day. And it's just, it's really sweet. And it's something that I feel like lets them each have a chance to kind of decompress and just like it brings us all back together into the same kind of rhythm. And then their dad gets home and usually starts playing with them right away, which is amazing because he worked since like 5 a.m. And I usually make dinner then, and then we go for a walk. We have a little outdoor fireplace on our deck that we usually read before bed. That's the day.
You read outside, like,
It's
of
really
course
nice.
you do. Of course you
But
do.
it's really nice.
That's incredible.
It's really nice. It's
something that I want to call out is that while this conversation and you talking about your life might seem really idyllic, what I love about your life and admire so much is that it's also so real. You just do a really good job at, I think, being in tune with your family and recognizing and setting up almost little rituals, if you will, things that will like help everyone come together and also help transition so everyone is as supported as possible. And if anything feels out of balance, you have a good sense of how to just stop everything, figure that out, find a new path forward and reset instead of just like plowing through it. Monica and Bentley are also very much realists in terms of like the world. And I appreciate the life you've made in the world without feeling disconnected from reality, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's not like you just are like, we moved to the woods and we don't talk to anybody and we read by the fire.
Yeah.
But
I think what you were talking about with the rhythms and the rituals and stuff, I think what I have figured out, and I'm still figuring it out, that is an ideal day that I just told you about, but we're also all like navigating the world as it is right now, which is crazy and hard. And we're all going through our own stuff. But I think those rhythms they're like anchor points that we keep coming back to and the kids can depend on. It's the consistency of knowing like we're going to have a big breakfast, so we're all going to feel good starting our day off with something nourishing, and we're going to come together after school. And even if we have a busy day or things are chaotic or someone was mean to us at lunch or, you know, anything that happens, we still have these touch points to come back together on.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that I definitely had to figure out as I went, and I'm still figuring out how to make it better. And when I was talking about like reading in front of the fire, that whole entire thing, even though it looks like this very romanticized evening ritual, it is like scientifically to turn their brains down for the day, you know, and just it's like figuring out the things that work and then making them feel really magical and fun and like setting the intention to do them every day.
That is what I mean by the Monica Walch effect. Like, it's like you have this way of just bringing a little bit of magic and making everything a little bit special. And it could just be something as simple as reading books. Maybe it's by your fire outside, but I've also like come to your backyard in the summer and there's just this blanket laid out and some books. That's the reading time for the day. And it's magical. Like as a kid, to have, hey, here's a great little spot on a like summer breezy day. Who doesn't want that? I want that as an adult, you know?
And my mom did that when we were kids because my mom had me when she was 20. My dad was a farmer. We did not have a lot of money or anything extra, but my mom took what she had and just made it really fun and magical. And we never felt like we didn't have what we needed, you know? And I think that also goes back to the like community piece. And I mean, growing up on a farm, there were always people just like stopping over all the time. It was wild. When I was a kid, it was amazing because they usually had kids with them and we would run off and play. And my mom always, like very Midwestern, had some kind of bar, like brownies, Rice Krispie bars, coffee. My
We call
parents would
those
just
bars here in Minnesota, if anyone's
bars.
confused about
She
that.
always
We
had
call
bars.
like, yeah, we call them bars, Pana bars. Yeah,
Any dessert is just, it's a bar.
the bar.
But my parents would literally like drop what they were doing and sit down and visit with people. Like whoever drove into the yard, they would be welcomed in for coffee and bars. And, you know, it was just how I grew up. So I think I learned really young that you don't need a lot to like make people feel welcome. It's just how you show up and welcome people in.
I keep thinking about this expression or phrase, still waters run deep. My husband taught me that because his mom used to say that to him. She's a quieter woman and she is amazing, my mother-in-law. And she would always say, you know, she's not a woman of many words. And she would say to my husband, like, still waters run deep, because he's similar to her. I feel like that sort of fits into your life. But I also want to say, I think what's stunning about this conversation, even though it's just about so much simplicity, is that you are living your values. And I think that is really challenging for people today. Everything distracts us from what we actually really care about. And it almost feels like a battle to constantly come back to what we care about and what matters.
And why is that? Just because the world's so busy?
I don't know. Listening to you, that's a theme, it feels like, you know, choosing to like sort of reject the busyness of the fact that you had this career you were really proud of, but you chose the simplicity because you knew your values were there. And the way you've designed your day, the way you have breakfast, the way that like you decide that reading books is important and being quiet is important and visiting and spending time together and community. Our lives used to be designed around these values. And I was just talking about this yesterday. Do you remember when there'd be like the town spaghetti dinner and you had to go? Everybody went, you know, like you had to go. Like it wasn't a choice. And our lives used to be about that. They were structured that way. And even when I was growing up, like our lives were designed around community and around living our values. And somehow it feels like I have to fight more to protect that than ever. And even in my own mind, like, what am I choosing to do today? What am I choosing to tell my family what's important? What am I choosing to tell my kids what's important? And it takes courage and intention to do that. And it's like really incredible.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask because I think as a parent, you're always trying to figure out what's the magical dust I need to sprinkle on my kids so that they turn out to be good humans, you know? But I wonder, how has it like changed and shaped and influenced your kids, the choices that you have made to do these things?
With the community piece, for sure. I think it's just how they're wired to invite people in. They're really good at finding a special rock or picking a flower from the garden and giving it to neighbors and just like giving it to people that walk by. And I feel like they have this innate like giving nature because that's what they've seen so far growing up.
You and your family are the most kind, generous, genuine people. And absolutely that comes through in the children.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job raising your kids.
Yeah.
And so are you. There's no perfect way of parenting. We're all finding our own way. But what I do love about your life and your family and the way that you've gone about raising kids is the intention and the love and the kindness that you give to them first and foremost, but then you expand that. I mean, even Bentley made some artwork recently that he put up around the neighborhood, and it is to share the message of love and kindness and community. And as I'm on walks, you know, just out and about, I'll see one and it instantly like lowers your blood pressure. By the way, it really does. Because you're reading these messages that are just so, we need that right now for sure. We're in Minnesota. We have been through a hell of a lot this year, but the whole community gets to experience the generosity and kindness of your family. And I think that that's really amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, if you're listening to this conversation and you're like, yes, less is more. I want more people in my life that can help me simplify. Go ahead and share this episode with them now. Just click that share button. You'll be glad you did. I want to pivot a little bit to talking about you just as a woman. So we're all in our 40s. We had kids later in life. Hello, perimenopause. Hello, hormones.
Is it postpartum or perimenopause? Which
absolutely.
We all done fucked up and we don't know what it is.
Our bodies are just doing their own thing.
Oh my God. Yeah. Every day I'm like, the house is falling apart. Like I felt good about my house. I was like, my house is great shape. I've been taking care of my house. I'm like, there's a little leak over here, but I think I got it. I plug it up and then I'm like, oh my God, there's like a leak. The toilet's not working over here. I got to go fix that. And then the leak opens up again. I'm like, what the fuck? The house is falling apart.
Yeah. Let's talk about our bodies. Let's talk about minds. One thing that I also very much admire about Monica is your how you approach health and wellness for yourself and for your family. But let's just talk about us right now. I think like Monica and I align on like we both see an acupuncturist. We like taking Chinese herbs or medicinal things over like a pharmaceutical. I say that while I like pop some Aleve this morning though, because my joints are hurting.
Balance,
so, you know,
balance.
There's a little bit of everything. But one of the things that I have always appreciated about you, and again, I feel like I've seen you choose this, is to source like high quality ingredients for your food and the benefits that that has had for your body. But I remember a time, probably after Goldie was born, where you were kind of like, okay, I got to start figuring some of this out for myself, for my body. Tell us a little bit about that. Like what was happening? What were you experiencing? What changes did you make? And how do you feel now? Wow.
All right. Yeah, I think so. Like all of us, probably, there's just so many different things coming at you. Like eat raw, eat vegan, eat vegetarian, you know, this is good for you, this is bad for you. I just feel like we had so many mixed messages, you know, growing up, but also like in adulthood and
still now.
Still, yeah.
I think, right. And there were so many years, like 20s, 30s, where we could just run on adrenaline and coffee and a salad and a smoothie, and those worked until they didn't. And I think for me, when it was like really glaringly obvious that that wasn't working, was the postpartum times with both kids. And I always have had the understanding of local food, and my dad was an organic dairy farmer. He raises grass-fed beef cows and pasture-raised chickens, and I mean, with Dinner on the Farm, like that was the whole goal, helping people understand more where their food came from. So I had an understanding of it, but I wasn't necessarily fully immersed in it for my own diet, which is strange to think about now. But having kids and having like way more needs after you have kids, being depleted, it's just such a huge drain on your resources as a mom.
Mhm.
So I feel like that was really probably the catalyst of wanting to figure it out. And then also having two kids, being super busy, cooking for everyone and figuring out how to really save money on food by cooking everything at home. It was just part of like how life was unfolding. So I realized that I had to figure it out. And instead of, trying this diet or trying this way of eating, it was just like, let's just simplify everything and figure out the one way that works and makes everyone feel really good. I mean, I spend so much time sourcing food, and the bulk of our budget really goes to food, but that's just a priority of ours. And I feel like the outcomes from eating that way have really shown in our kids and how healthy they are, which gives us the energy then to do all these other things that we've been talking about.
Can you talk more in detail? Like when you say sourcing food, are you like, I'm going to pick a mushroom from the woods? Or like, are you like, I'm going to this grocery store?
Bentley actually does that. Like,
Yeah.
Bentley's the mushroom guy.
For us people that are just like normal in the world, like what does that look
Yeah.
like?
Well, I mean, what it looks like for us in this season of life is I do the meal planning and the cooking for the most part in our house. So Bentley loves to forage and he's really good at it, and he will collect things and then I will figure out what to do with them. But for the bulk of our meals, it's more like connecting with farmers to either get half of a cow and put it in the freezer, or going to the farmer's market and getting our proteins that way, growing a lot of our food in the garden, just like really connecting as much as we can to the food, I think has been the biggest change.
and
But
at
then
the
it's
same time, there's still like Trader Joe's and Costco runs in the middle there, right? Like,
totally.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the other part of it. It's like going to multiple grocery stores every week because we get this stuff at Trader Joe's, we get this at Costco, we get this at the co-op, we get this at Target, like whatever it ends up being. I think that's why there's so much time spent on it. But in the long run, it saves time, if that makes sense. It's like the prep and the planning time actually saves time at the end, because then we're coming away from that with all of these really easy to figure out meals and ways to plan dinner.
Okay, can we talk about the Monica Walsh meal prep? Because you're talking to two people and you know this, but like Nick and I feel much better about our lives if we can meal prep, but I feel like I'm just hitting a brick wall constantly, right?
I like saying
In
the
terms of
term
inspiration.
meal prep,
Yeah.
but then that's
Yeah.
where it begins and ends for me.
How
Meal prep.
like,
I
and-
pretend I bought a carrot and I cut it. I prepped it.
It
for
takes
tomorrow.
a lot of time.
It takes a
does.
lot of time.
It's
how do
not
you
just-
do it so effortlessly? But I mean, you enjoy doing it, right?
That's probably the baseline, is that I love it and I enjoy doing it, and I feel like food is like my love language. I know it's not one of the traditional ones, but it feels like it for me. I love cookbooks. Will check out cookbooks at the library and just read them like novels, and I just get so inspired. I think like the most simple way to talk about it is when I realized that if every meal has a protein, a fat, a carb, and like something fresh, that's all you need. Like it could be as simple as brats on the grill with like an avocado on the side, some fruit that's in season, and like an edible flower on the plate, some really good condiments. It can be that simple, or it can be like a gourmet meal if you have time and, you're inspired to do that. But I feel like if you hit those 4 things every time, it can be that simple. And then, with kids, if they're like, I don't want to eat things mixed together, we have one kid that eats everything. It doesn't matter what it is. And we have one that is more picky and she wants everything separate and nothing touching, like soup, out of the question. But if you put all of the things that you were going to put in the soup on her plate and separate them, she loves it.
Do your kids cook with you?
They do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like they help in the garden and in the woods and stuff when Bentley's foraging, and they help cook, or even, it doesn't even have to be cooking. It can be like peeling a carrot or cutting the apple or doing something. But what we have found is they always eat the thing that they picked out of the ground or they helped cook, or it doesn't matter what it is. They're super excited about it.
I also love, like, we try as much as we can learn this from marrying into a family that has a lot of kids. And like, I learned the importance of like, they want to help. It's so simple, but it's like, they love it. And guess what? If they're cracking eggs, they're not watching TV. And if they're setting the table, they're not on their screens. And if they're doing it with you, they're making memories. Like, it's the simplest stuff. And I always get so excited when my kids like want to help me, even though it's a disaster. It's a disaster. And there is like my anxiety kind of goes up and I'm just like, okay. And they're, throwing spaghetti sauce in the air, but that's like the best.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I can tell, like, I was so curious also to know like what mealtime is like at your house. Like when you sit down to the meal, what does that look like? Do you have like?
Probably the same as yours. I mean, we sit down, sometimes everyone's quiet. Sometimes they're singing at the top of their lungs and no one can hear anything else. We just like try to talk about our day. We usually light candles. We love candles. So even that just little thing, it's like so simple.
Do you eat outside or do you eat inside?
We eat outside in the summer and like when it's nice, spring, fall.
But you always light candles for all of
we always light candles. Yeah.
Again, a little
and
bit
it's
of magic.
so easy. It's
a
so
little bit of
simple.
magic.
Amazing. I would have never thought. We do that for Shabbat, I guess. And it is magical. And we do it for Shabbat. And it's a big thing to light the candles. But I love that idea. A Monica touch.
I love that.
A Monica touch, if you will. Yes, yes.
Yeah. It's another intentional touch. It's like, okay, now we're here and this is what we're doing.
This is important.
I think, even blowing them out, they're like, I get to blow them out. Everything is just so fun when you're a kid. So just like finding little ways to make them feel empowered about food, I think is super important. I don't know that our generation really had that feeling growing up.
I think this whole journey with our parents, with our kids, has really, in ourselves and our own bodies, aging and changing and going through postpartum twice. It's like it does make us shine a light on ourselves in what we're doing for our own bodies.
Yeah.
And food is such a huge part of that.
Yeah.
What do you feel is the food that's most nourishing to your body?
Well, again, I would say it's seasonal. So right now, just moving out of winter into spring, the thing that feels the best for me and that gives me the most energy, and I guess that's how I always judge it, is like by how I feel afterward, is like soft, warm stews, soups, rice, things like that. Eating fruit that's in season, and then just tons of like teas and lots of herbal infusions and stuff like that, instead of just drinking plain water, which I feel like doesn't super hydrate us anymore. It's like just adding in little things.
What do you add into your water? Asking for a friend.
Well, I drink tea like all day. So just different herbs and plants and things, just depending on how I'm feeling that day.
Wow.
So Monica has an apothecary in her house that you've, and through some of your gardening, but also I'm sure you're sourcing some things from like your herbalist guild too, that you're a part of. But it's like this, again, magical little wall.
I can barely keep like an
potion.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, my aloe plant died too. Those are hard.
Good. Thank
It's like too
God.
much water, not
We can
enough
keep
water. I'm like,
talking. Okay.
no.
Let me tell you.
I had to buy the aloe in the bottle on our vacation.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
We're back. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to ask, because Elise said, started asking about this, but like when you realized in your second postpartum situation or time like, that you needed to really focus on your body and nourishment and that things were different. Because for me, it was when I turned 43. I like noticed everything, like the regimen had to change. I was like, everything is different. 43, it was like a clock. And now I'm 45. I notice energy is so crazy. Like I used to feel energy all the time. And now it'll be 2 or 3 o'clock and it's like I can't function. So I'm just really curious when you started to notice that you really needed to focus on, your own regimen and what you were putting in your body. How did you feel different after you started focusing on that? Like, could you really feel physical changes after you started being more intentional about like what you were eating and drinking and everything?
Yeah, I think it takes a lot longer than you want it to and you think it will. I had this hormone test done called the Dutch test.
Yeah.
And it tests like your different levels of hormones throughout the day, which is amazing. I would highly recommend that for
Did you
anybody
get
our
it like
age.
online or did you go in somewhere and get it done?
I actually there's a place in New Brighton called Nourish Family Wellness, and you just have to find a doctor that will read the results for you and then give you recommendations. I was already working with an acupuncturist for hormone health stuff. I don't remember anyone ever talking about like 40s. I mean, we learned all this stuff about pregnancy and, how to take care of your body when you're pregnant, but then it's like you're postpartum and you have to figure it all out. And then you're also going into perimenopause, menopause age if you're having kids later. So I'm really excited because I have 2 girls to teach them about it because I never really learned about it. But now that I love talking to other women about it because just like what you guys are doing with the podcast, you don't have to reinvent the wheel then every time, You can talk about it just like you're talking about the sandwich generation. It's like you guys had to figure all of this out on your own. And now you're helping so many people so they don't have to start from, square one and figure it all out too. So it's kind of a similar feeling of like, let's share this information so we don't all have to figure it out on our own.
So did you start?
Silly question, but what does a Dutch test specifically tell you?
So it tells you when your cortisol spikes. It tells you like all of these things about your hormones. And then your practitioner can suggest like lifestyle changes or supplement recommendations or things like that. So when I took it, I think I was like a year postpartum with Goldie, my second. And the biggest thing that I learned was that I needed to sleep. And it sounds like so simple and boring, but once I started really focusing on sleep and getting the sleep that I needed, it made like all the other changes so much easier.
So do you mean like how long you were sleeping? Like the recommendation was like you should go to sleep earlier?
Well, it was kind of the whole spectrum. So it was like, what are you doing before you sleep? Like, are you on your phone with the blue light? And the big shift for that, if you have to be on your phone, is just wearing blue light blockers. I mean, better to put our phones away like this amount of time before we sleep, but I think they call it like sleep hygiene. So what you do a couple hours before bed, like not snacking at night, which was a total thing that we did every single night. It was like the kids are in bed, we're winding down, we're watching a show, getting all this blue light in our eyes, having snacks, like all of the things that don't let you fall asleep easily.
Did you feel like a major change after you really worked on that?
Yeah, and it's been a work in progress too, because I mean, you know how as your kids are getting older, like you're shifting, there's just all of these things that are out of your control until the time moves. But I guess just controlling the things that you can and really protecting your sleep and knowing that if you can get the rest that you need, it's going to make everything else so much easier. And along with that, just like making sure you're fully resourced whether that's your food, your hydration, your sleep, just getting outside and getting some sun in your eyes in the morning. There's all these little hacks and tricks.
Isn't the sunlight thing a theme in this podcast? So much advice comes back to just like go and sit in the sun.
Yeah.
Like that's actually like that's been heard now many times.
Yeah. Well, and it's like that bottom of the pyramid resourcing, and I've learned so much about that. I feel like in the last 5 to 10 years is just like all of these things that we could do every day for ourselves that will make us feel like exponentially better are free. Like sitting out in the sun, getting sleep, eating things with less ingredients, which is basically just cooking at home, even if it's simple. Spending time in nature. Like all of these things are free to us. It's not another thing that we have to buy or another consumption piece.
When you got the Dutch test, you said your main recommendation was sleep. Were there other recommendations for food or maybe supplements? What were some of the other things that were kind of like maybe one or two highlights that were surprising to you that you realized that you needed from that?
One of the supplements that was recommended was a B12 supplement. And that was for that kind of energy crash that you were talking about in the afternoon. And the way that my practitioner recommended it was we get a lot of B vitamins in food, but not quite enough. And our body can't metabolize it the same way. So she always recommends doing like a bottle of B12 every year. So if you take it every day, you'll be done in like a month, right? But if you forget sometimes, it's just like finishing that bottle and then you probably have a good amount of reserves for the year. I mean, that was her recommendation to me. I'm not saying that's for everybody. I think like finding someone that is willing to work with you in a holistic way. So like I still go to get my yearly checkups through Western medicine, like through my normal doctor, but then I work with all the out-of-pocket people, like the chiropractor, the acupuncturist, the Chinese medicine doctor. I go to the Western doctor and get like my labs and my blood tests, and then I take that information back to the other people, and they're like, okay, we would recommend this or this lifestyle change.
I love that.
Yeah, I
love that blend.
Yeah, it's a good.
Yeah. It's like the things that we pay out of pocket for are the things that feel like they push the needle the farthest.
And
That's
I
how it's
think-
worked for me anyway.
No, and I think too, like, I know we could keep talking about this forever, but I think the lens of being sandwiched and seeing in real time what's happening with your parents, for me, that's why this conversation is so poignant for me, because my life changed when I saw my parents' health decline. And it was this total self-reflection moment when I was like, well, now I have this much time. Like, I need to maximize this for my children that I had late in life. So I am so inspired by every time I hear about this when it comes to hormones and taking care of ourselves in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and the amount of money that you're spending, like seeing it in real time, seeing your parents' hospital bills and seeing their health bills and thinking about what it costs to get supplements and vitamins. What you're spending on the front end is so much less than what you're seeing on the back end. So it's an advantage in a way of being sandwiched because you're literally seeing it. You're like, well, I can spend $40 here or like $40,000 here.
We've talked about this a lot, Robyn, but it's also about doing things now that will just allow us to move, be healthy, be present, have the life that we want with our kids as we all age. And there's a lot of that for me comes back to like movement and food, which are tricky to fit in the day to day. They really are. And like, again, meal planning, just it's hit or miss. Some weeks we're on, some weeks it's a dumpster fire.
It's not like perfect over here either. Sometimes depending on the day you have, like it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yep.
Eliesa talked a lot about your energy before I met you. Something I was noticing is I find in my life right now, for some reason, a lot of times I feel an urgency to like go to the next thing or like, okay, let's go. There's like this forward motion always, which serves me a lot of the time because I get a lot of shit done. However, I really come to appreciate when I don't feel that way, when I feel like I can just enjoy where I'm at and I don't have to think about what's next or like what I'm going to be late to. And there's something about your energy that makes me feel that way, where I just don't feel like there's somewhere else I have to be and something else I have to think about. And I think it's the power that you've harnessed in being present. It's contagious and
Thanks.
it's really a gift. This has been one of my favorite conversations I think that we've
Thank
had.
you. So fun.
It's the Monica magic. Can we just like coin that here?
Monica
The
magic.
Monica magic. What are things that you want to share with people?
The only thing I have to share right now is my Instagram at Monica Walch. And that's where, right now, that's where I'm putting everything.
I think that this conversation is just going to be one that I'm going to think about for a long time, you know?
Mhm.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited. You can always simplify another layer down.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing. It's like you're stripping things away, but it's making things so much more meaningful, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
Like it's making the things that matter really get all of your energy instead of like spreading yourself thin over all of these things at once, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think what you don't see coming is you're building and adding. Your 20s, 30s, and even into your 40s, you're building and adding, building and adding. And that's just what happened. Like we built so much and then we kept adding and adding. And nobody tells you the importance of letting go or taking away because that somehow feels like a loss rather than a freedom. And I think that is like what's very confusing about this current moment in my mind is like, who can tell me how to do this? Who can tell me how to like let go of something without feeling like I'm losing something?
It is a lot.
And
It's okay if it's a lot.
it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're consuming all day is like more stuff, more stuff. You know, everyone's selling stuff, but also people are doing more things. And you're like, why am I not doing more things? And I think exactly what you said, like, who can tell me how to do this? I think the biggest advantage about being in our 40s and having kids is knowing that we're the only ones that can tell ourselves how to do it. Like everyone's going to try to tell you how to do it, but until you can start listening to your own intuition and being like, I feel so good when I'm just sitting on my deck in the sun in the morning having coffee. I don't feel that way when I'm rushing here, rushing there, trying to add all of these things to our life. How do I actually feel? And like just giving yourself the space and time to
Figure it
check
out.
in.
Yeah.
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 And say, how do I feel? And if this feels the best for me, like, how can I do more of it?
Yep.
And that feels like the beginning of trying to live your values. I think that's how you've arrived at where you've arrived. That's simple, like shutting out the noise, hearing your own inner voice, really trying to understand when you feel the most at peace, and like that being the genesis of like your decisions. Like that's, to me, that's you, you know, like that's something that you're showing us.
You
Well,
know,
and I think when you have those values figured out, whether it's for yourself or for your family or both things combined, you can use those to more easily decide what to do in different situations. For example, with everything that just happened in Minnesota over the last few months, I know Eliesa and I had this conversation quite a few times at the beginning, like, what do we do? How do we show up? How can we use our gifts to help in this moment? And Bentley and I sat down together and said, these are our family values. How can we use these to support our neighbors right now and take care of our community? And once we figured those out, we could show up in ways that we could actually sustain for the 3 or 4 months that we had to do it. But just like Eliesa said, seeing Bentley's artwork all over the neighborhood, like one of his values is creating art. And so he took that and put art around. He didn't put his name on it. He didn't need any validation for it. It was just like his way of showing up for the community.
you are one of my greatest teachers. And
Thank
now
you. Same.
Medial.
And now we get to
I
share
love you
this
guys.
magic with so many people. So thank you. Thank you
I'm
for
honored. This podcast is helping so many people. I've sent it to so many friends who are in this exact same season as we are with young kids and watching their parents age. And the feedback is always just everyone feels so seen. And it's so helpful to have someone that has been through it and is
Seriously.
really like sharing what they learned.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
nice
you.
to hear.
No, thank you. You're
Nice
like a
to
big
hear.
hug every time. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully you can take away some helpful info and tips. All links and resources can be found in our show notes.
Please share this episode with anyone you think this might help. And if you have a topic that you'd like to talk more with us about in the sandwich generation world, please slide into our DMs on Instagram. Our handle is @thesandwichgenerationpod. We hope you'll be back for more combos with us soon. And remember, no matter whose diaper you're changing, you're never alone.